The phone rang at 3:17 a.m., shattering the fragile peace of my dorm room like a gunshot in a library. "Alex? It's Dad. Your mom's gone." She slipped away in her sleep. His voice cracked like dry autumn leaves underfoot. And in that instant, the world I'd so carefully stitched together from secrets and half-truths began to fray at the seams. I clutched the receiver, staring at the faded photo of us on my desk. Mom, Dad, and me at the county fair, all smiles and no shadows. Wondering how I'd ever face the unraveling without Jordan's hand in mine. The one truth I'd buried deeper than any lie. I hung up the phone and didn't cry. Not then. The tears would come later, in the sterile hum of the airport shuttle. But in that first raw moment, all I felt was a hollow wind whistling through the cracks of my chest. Jordan stirred beside me in the narrow twin bed. His arm draped over my waist like an anchor in a storm. "Babe, what's wrong?" he murmured, his voice thick with sleep, those hazel eyes blinking open in the glow of my desk lamp. I turned to him, the boy who'd become my everything in stolen glances and midnight confessions, and whispered the words that would change us both. "She's gone, and I have to go home alone." The flight from Boston to Des Moines felt like crossing an invisible border into another country. One where cornfields stretched like golden accusations under the endless Midwest sky, and family meant pretending. I'd built my life at Dartmouth on a foundation of careful deceptions. The full-ride scholarship from the Harlan Foundation, named after some long-dead oil baron who'd made his fortune drilling dreams out of the Iowa soil, came with strings invisible to most but ironclad to me. "We invest in the future of traditional American values," the award letter had read, tucked into an envelope with a cross-stitched eagle on the flap. Traditional. The word had haunted me since high school, when I'd first realized the pull I felt toward boys wasn't a phase but a pulse, steady as my heartbeat. Mom had known in her quiet way, slipping me books on Whitman during summer visits, her eyes twinkling with unspoken permission. But Dad? The town deacon, the man who prayed over potlucks and voted straight-ticket Republican? He'd built our split-level ranch house with his own hands, brick by unyielding brick, and love, to him, looked like the white picket fence out front. Jordan and I had met freshman year in the fall of 2021, during orientation week when the campus still smelled of fresh rain on ivy-covered stone. He was the transfer from UCLA, all California ease and surfer curls, majoring in environmental policy with a laugh that could disarm a room. I was the kid from flyover country, pre-med track, volunteering at the food pantry to pad my resume. We bonded over late-night study sessions in the Baker Library basement, trading stories about families that didn't quite fit. "My folks think global warming's a liberal hoax," I joked once, scribbling notes on organic chemistry. "Mine think therapy's for weaklings," he'd shot back, his knee brushing mine under the table. A spark that neither of us acknowledged until the night of the first snow. It fell soft and silent that December, blanketing Hanover in a hush that made the world feel possible. We'd walked back from a party at the Zeta Psi house, me tipsy on cheap beer, him steady as ever, and paused under the glow of a street lamp, flakes catching in his lashes like stars. "Alex," he'd said, his breath fogging the air. "You ever wonder if we're just pretending to be straight for the cameras?" The question hung there, vulnerable as the snow. I could have laughed it off, kept the charade intact. Instead, I leaned in, our lips meeting in a kiss that tasted like pine and promise. That was the beginning, and from it the hiding began too. The scholarship demanded discretion, not explicitly, of course. Harlan didn't have a no-gaze clause. That would have been sued into oblivion by the ACLU faster than you could say equal protection. But the subtext was etched in every donor dinner, every glossy brochure featuring wholesome couples at sunset picnics. "We seek students who embody the Heartland spirit," the program director had said at my orientation luncheon, clapping me on the back like I was his own son. I'd nodded, smiled, and inside, I'd calcified. Jordan became my secret superpower. The texts deleted after reading, the weekends he'd visit friends in Boston, while I drove the 5 hours home to Iowa, fabricating alibis about study groups or girls from church. We made it work for 3 years, stolen spring breaks in Provincetown, disguised as solo trips, summer internships that conveniently overlapped in D.C. But each lie was a thread pulled tighter, until the fabric of us strained against the weight. Mom's death hit like a derailment. The funeral was set for Friday, 3 days after the call, giving me just enough time to grieve in private and rehearse my solitude. Jordan offered to come. God, how he begged, pacing our cramped room with that fierce protectiveness that made my knees weak. I'll be your cousin from California, Alex, or your roommate. Hell, I'll wear a fake mustache if it helps. His voice broke on the last word, and I pulled him close, burying my face in the crook of his neck where he smelled like cedar and home. You can't, I whispered, hating the words even as they formed. Dad's already fragile. The whole town's coming, Pastor Ellis, the Harlan reps. If they sense anything. I trailed off, the fear a familiar chokehold. Jordan pulled back, his eyes searching mine, hurt flickering like a shadow across his face. And me? What am I, Alex? Your dirty little secret forever. It was the closest we'd come to a fight, that quiet accusation hanging in the air like smoke. I promised we'd talk after the burial, after the casseroles stopped coming. He nodded, but the kiss we shared that night tasted bittersweet, like goodbye unspoken. Des Moines welcomed me back with a bite of winter wind off the Des Moines River, the kind that slices through coats and straight to the bone. Dad met me at the airport, his frame shrunken in the wool overcoat Mom had knit him last Christmas. He hugged me stiffly, like we were both made of glass, and we drove in silence to the house where I'd grown up. The neighborhood hadn't changed. Ranch houses with manicured lawns, American flags snapping from porches, the distant hum of the John Deere plant where Dad still punched the clock after 28 years. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of lilies from the florist and the faint, lingering trace of Mom's lavender sachets. Her absence was everywhere. In the half-finished quilt on the sewing table, the coffee mug still warm on the counter from her morning ritual. That first night, we sat at the kitchen table, picking at a store-bought pie neither of us wanted. Dad's hands trembled as he poured black coffee, the steam rising like ghosts. She was proud of you, son. That scholarship. It's her legacy, too. His voice was gravelly, worn thin by grief. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Mom had been the bridge, the one who'd encouraged my applications, who'd whispered, "Be true to your heart, Alex, even if it's a winding road." During our last phone call, she'd never met Jordan, couldn't in my cowardice, but she'd sensed him in the lilt of my voice when I spoke of friends from school. Now, with her gone, the bridge was burned, and I was adrift. The viewing was a blur of handshakes and condolences, the funeral home's beige walls closing in like a bad dream. Pastor Ellis droned on about eternal rest and God's plan, his eyes lingering on me with that paternal scrutiny I dodged since high school. "You're carrying the family torch now, Alexander," he said afterward, gripping my elbow a beat too long. "Keep it burning bright." I murmured agreements, my smile a mask forged in freshman seminars on performative identity. Among the mourners was Evelyn Harlan herself, the founder's widow, 80-something and sharp as a tack, who'd personally signed my award letter. She pressed a cool hand to mine, her diamonds glinting under the chandelier. "Your mother's boy," she cooed, her voice like rustling silk. "Such promise. Don't squander it on distractions." The word landed like a warning shot, and I wondered if she knew, or if grief had made me paranoid. By the time we buried Mom under a slate-gray sky, the weight had settled deep in my bones. The cemetery was on the edge of town, rows of headstones marching like soldiers toward the horizon. Dad shoveled the first dirt, his breaths coming in ragged bursts, and I stood frozen, the chill seeping through my soles. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Jordan. "Thinking of you. Call when you can. Love." I deleted it reflexively, the habit ingrained, but my thumb hovered over the screen, aching to reply. What would Mom say? Let him in, Alex. Let the light through the cracks. Back at the house, the real unraveling began. While Dad napped in his recliner, exhausted from the day's toll, I slipped into Mom's office, a sunlit nook off the kitchen where she'd balanced the checkbook and dreamed her quiet dreams. The desk was tidy, save for a sealed envelope addressed to me in her looping script. "For Alexander, when the time comes." My heart stuttered as I broke the wax seal, the paper crinkling like a confession. Inside was a letter dated 2 months prior and a check for $5,000 made out to Dartmouth tuition. Her life insurance payout earmarked for me. My dearest Alex, if you're reading this, I've taken my leave a bit sooner than planned. Don't grieve too hard. Love. I've had a good run, full of sunsets and your father's terrible jokes. But I need to tell you something before the world pulls you back into its spin. I knew about Jordan. From the way your eyes light up on calls, from the postcards you think I don't notice, the ones postmarked from Cape Cod with no return address. I'm proud of you, not just for the brains that got you that scholarship, but for the heart that found him. Love isn't a secret to hoard. It's a fire to share. Your father. He's a good man, but blind to some colors. When I'm gone, tell him. Or don't. But live true for both of us. There's more in the safe papers from my side of the family. Things that might change how you see us. Use the money wisely and remember. The Harlan money bought your books, but your soul's all yours. All my love. Forever, Mom. Tears blurred the ink as I folded the letter, a sob escaping like a dam break. She knew. All along, she'd known and loved anyway. The safe in the corner yielded a manila folder, yellowed with age. Birth certificates, a faded photo of 2 women in 1950s dresses, arms linked defiantly, and a notarized affidavit declaring Mom's aunt, my great-aunt Elsie, as beneficiary of a trust fund, hidden from the family for decades because family values meant straight lines only. Elsie, who'd run off to San Francisco in '68, never to return, whispering of a life with her dear friend Clara. Mom had kept it all, a secret archive of quiet rebellion. I sat there until dusk, the letter clutched to my chest, the pieces of my compartmentalized life colliding like thunderheads. Jordan, the scholarship, Dad's unspoken expectations, Mom's final plea, live true. Calling him felt like jumping without a net, but I did it anyway, stepping onto the back porch where the wind carried the faint scent of turned earth from the fields. Alex. His voice was a lifeline, warm and worried. How are you holding up? I told him everything, the letter, the photo, the ache that words couldn't touch. He listened, that steady presence I'd fallen for, until I choked out. I want you here, not as a secret, as you. There was a pause, heavy with the miles between us. I'm on the next flight, he said simply. And Alex, whatever comes, we're in it together. But secrets have a way of festering, and mine had roots deeper than I'd admitted. That night, as Dad and I shared a silent dinner of reheated lasagna, the doorbell rang. An unexpected visitor. It was Tim Hargrove, my high school lab partner turned Harlan Foundation liaison. Clipboard in hand and a smile too polished for a funeral wake. Just checking in on our star scholar, he said, settling into the living room like he owned it. Evelyn wanted a progress report. Grades are stellar, as always. Any personal updates? Girlfriend prospects? We like to keep tabs on the full picture. Dad chuckled weakly from his chair, but I felt the trap snap shut. Tim's eyes were sharp, appraising, and in that moment, I saw the machinery behind the benevolence. The Foundation's quiet vetting process, whispers from alumni networks, the invisible ledger where traditional values meant no scandals, no deviations. I'd signed the NDA freshman year, buried in fine print about conduct befitting the award. One slip, a photo, a rumor, and poof, the tuition vanished. I appreciate it, Tim, I managed, forcing steadiness. Nothing to report, just grieving. He nodded, but as he left, his parting shot lingered. Keep it that way, Alex. The world's watching. Sleep evaded me that night, Mom's letter glowing under my pillow like a talisman. By morning, Jordan's plane would land, and with him, the collision I'd delayed for years. But as I stared at the ceiling cracks mapping out like veins, I wondered if unraveling meant destruction, or finally, freedom. The cab from Des Moines International dropped Jordan at the house just after noon, the sun slicing through bare branches like accusations. He stepped out in his wool peacoat and scuffed boots, duffel slung over one shoulder, looking every bit the coastal transplant dropped into Heartland soil, vibrant, out-of-place mine. I met him at the curb, heart hammering, and pulled him into a hug that bordered on desperate. Up close, he smelled of airport coffee and resolve, his stubble rough against my cheek. Missed you, he murmured, low enough that only I could hear. Dad was inside prepping for the post-funeral lunch crowd, oblivious for now, but the clock was ticking. We broke apart as the front door creaked open, Dad wiping flour-dusted hands on his apron. A relic from Mom's kitchen rain. "Who's this?" he asked, squinting through bifocals. His voice laced with the cautious warmth reserved for door-to-door salesmen. "Dad, this is Jordan, my roommate from Dartmouth. He, heard about Mom and insisted on paying respects." The lie slipped out smooth as ever, but it tasted like ash. Jordan extended a hand, his grip firm, smile easy. "Mr. Whitaker, sir. I'm so sorry for your loss. Alex has told me, well, everything about how strong she was." Dad's face softened, the mention of Mom a key turning in a rusty lock. "Appreciate you coming all this way, son. Come in, there's ham and beans on the stove." The afternoon unfolded in a haze of small talk and sympathy cards, neighbors trickling in with Tupperware and Bible verses. Jordan navigated it like a pro, charming Mrs. Larson from church with questions about her quilting circle, helping Dad carve the spiral ham without missing a beat. But beneath the civility, tension hummed like a live wire. Every brush of his hand against mine in the kitchen sent sparks. Every shared glance across the crowded living room felt like a dare. By evening, as the last guests departed and Dad retreated to the den with a tumbler of bourbon, the air thickened with unspoken reckonings. We washed dishes side by side at the sink, sleeves rolled up, suds bubbling like secrets. "Your dad's not what I expected," Jordan said softly, scrubbing a plate with more force than necessary. "Kinda gruff, but kind eyes." I rinsed, watching water swirl down the drain. "He is, just stuck in his ways. Like the town. Like me, until you." I set the plate aside, turning to face him, the fluorescent light casting shadows that made his jawline sharp as a promise. Our fingers intertwined under the soapy veil, a stolen intimacy that felt both thrilling and treacherous. Upstairs in my old room, posters of the Hawkeyes faded on the walls, twin beds sagging under years of neglect. We finally exhaled. Jordan dropped his bag, pulling me down beside him. "Show me the letter," he said, no preamble. I retrieved it from my nightstand, the paper creased from rereads. As he scanned Mom's words, his expression shifted from curiosity to something fiercer. Pride mingled with the old hurt. She got it. More than got it. She cheered for us. He folded it carefully, handing it back. "So what's the play, Alex? We can't keep this up. Not here, not now." I leaned against the headboard, the slats digging into my spine like reminders. "I know, but the scholarship. Tim was here yesterday, sniffing around. If they find out, it's over. No tuition, no med school, no safety net for Dad." The words hung heavy, the betrayal not of Jordan but of myself, hiding him like a flaw to be fixed. He shifted, propping on an elbow, his gaze piercing. "And if you lose it, what's left? A life half-lived? We're 22, Alex. Not pawns in some oil baron's game." His words echoed Mom's, a chorus I'd ignored too long. I reached for him, tracing the line of his collarbone through his shirt, the touch grounding me. "You're right. I just need time to tell Dad. Properly." Jordan's hand covered mine, stilling it. "Time's what we've run out of." He kissed me then, slow, deliberate, a reclamation. In the dim lamplight, with the house creaking around us like a watchful elder, it was more than desire. It was defiance, a quiet revolution against the walls I'd built. But revolutions have casualties. The next morning dawned crisp and unforgiving, frost etching patterns on the windows like cryptic warnings. Dad called me down early, his voice muffled through the floorboards. "Alex, we need to talk. About the future." My stomach nodded as I descended, Jordan still asleep upstairs, oblivious. In the kitchen, Dad sat at the table, Mom's letter nowhere in sight but the folder from the safe open before him. My blood ran cold. "Found this last night," he said, tapping the photo of Elsie and Clara. "Your mother. She kept secrets." His eyes, red-rimmed from lack of sleep, met mine, searching, not accusing. Was she, like them? All those years in San Francisco, The postcards from friends? The air stilled, the coffee pot gurgling like distant thunder. I could have lied, spun a tale of distant relatives and dusty history. But Mom's voice whispered from the ether. Live true. She wasn't Dad, but Elsie was. And she loved Clara. Deeply. Mom kept it for her. For all of us, maybe. He leaned back, chair scraping like a confession. Why hide it? We were a family. Solid. Because solid meant straight back then. Like it still does, sometimes. The words tumbled out bolder than I'd planned. Dad's brow furrowed, processing. And you? That boy upstairs, Jordan. He's more than a roommate, isn't he? It wasn't a question. It was an exhale, grief stripping away the filters. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah, he is. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Then, improbably, Dad's hand reached across the table. Not to withdraw, but to clasp mine. Your mother, she hinted once, said you had a light in you like Elsie's. I didn't want to see it. Feared it'd break you, like it broke her family. Tears welled in his eyes, mirroring mine. But she loved you fierce. If she saw this in you, then it's not broken. It's just different. Relief crashed over me like a wave, mingled with the sharp sting of years lost to fear. We sat there, hands linked, until Jordan's footsteps creaked on the stairs. He entered hesitantly, sensing the shift. Dad stood, extending a hand. Welcome to the family, son. Properly. Jordan's eyes widened, then softened, as he shook it. Thank you, sir. Means more than you know. For a fleeting hour, the kitchen felt whole. Pancakes sizzling, laughter tentative but real, sunlight slanting through the blinds like benediction. We talked, haltingly at first. Dad sharing stories of Mom's hidden kindnesses, like the care packages she'd sent to Elsie's address in the Castro. Jordan recounting his own coming out over Thanksgiving turkey in Santa Monica, met with hugs and craft IPAs. It was messy, human, tears and burnt edges, but it was ours. Then the doorbell rang, shattering the fragile truce. Tim Hargrove again, this time with Evelyn Harlan in tow, her cane tapping like a metronome of judgment. We were in town for a board meeting, she explained, sweeping in with the entitlement of old money. Thought we'd check on our investment personally. Dad excused himself to the garage, mumbling about oil changes, leaving me to face the Inquisition alone. Jordan hovered in the hallway, out of sight but close enough to hear. Evelyn settled into Mom's armchair, pearls gleaming like armor. Tim flipped open his tablet, all business. Excellent service yesterday, Alex. Your mother's memory will live on through your achievements. Her smile was a blade wrapped in velvet. Now, about that personal conduct clause, any developments we should note? We value transparency. My pulse thundered, the room shrinking. This was it, the unraveling Mom had foreseen. I glanced toward the hallway, where Jordan's silhouette waited like a sentinel. Actually, yes, I said, voice steadying with each word. There is someone important in my life. Jordan, my boyfriend. He's here if you'd like to meet him. The air crackled. Evelyn's lips thinned. Tim's stylus paused midair. Boyfriend? She echoed, as if tasting something sour. Alexander, the Foundation's mission is clear. We foster leaders who uphold traditional values? I interrupted, heat rising. I know, but Mom taught me different. Love isn't traditional or modern. It's just love. And if that doesn't fit your ledger, then maybe I don't either. Jordan stepped forward then, hand finding mine, his presence a bulwark. Evelyn's eyes flicked between us, calculating. Tim cleared his throat. This is irregular. We'll need to review your status. Review away, I said, chin lifting. But know this. I'm not hiding anymore. They left in a swirl of perfumed frost, the door clicking shut like a gavel. Dad emerged from the garage, wiping his hands, having caught the tail end. Proud of you, son, he said gruffly, clapping my shoulder. Jordan pulled me close, whispering, that was brave. Terrifying, but brave. But bravery has backlash. That night, as snow dusted the fields, my phone lit up with an email from the Foundation. Preliminary review initiated. Scholarship status pending. The words blurred, panic clawing up my throat. Jordan held me through it, his arms a harbor, but doubt crept in like fog. Had I just torpedoed everything? For him, for Dad, for the future Mom had banked on? The days blurred into a tense limbo. Dad rallied, quietly, phoning old union buddies for job leads, crunching numbers on community college transfers if worst came to worst. "We Whitakers are scrappers," he'd say over breakfast, echoing Mom's grit. Jordan stayed on, helping with chores, but really weaving himself into the fabric. Chopping wood for the fireplace, debating crop yields with Dad over coffee. It was domestic, almost idyllic. The three of us snowed in, sharing stories by the fire, laughter thawing the chill. One evening, as flakes swirled outside, Dad pulled out Mom's old photo albums, pointing to a snap of her at 20, arm in arm with a college friend who looked a little too fondly at her. She had her secrets too, he admitted. Never pushed, just loved. It humanized him, that vulnerability. Stripped the deacon's armor to reveal the man who'd courted Mom with wildflowers and factory wages. Jordan listened, chin on his knee, and later, in bed, he traced patterns on my chest. "Your family's more queer than you think. Roots run deep." I kissed his temple, gratitude swelling. "Couldn't do this without you." Yet the sword hung. 2 weeks post-funeral, the Harlan verdict landed via certified mail. Scholarship revocation effective immediately. Conduct inconsistent with foundational principles. The letter cited public associations contrary to donor intent, attaching a screenshot grainy but unmistakable of Jordan and me holding hands on the porch, snapped by who knows who during their visit. Betrayal burned hot. Tim? A neighbor tipped off? The foundation's web of informants, ever watchful. I crumpled the paper, rage and ruin warring inside. Med school dreams dissolved. Loans loomed like storm clouds. Dad found me in the office, head in hands. "We'll fight it," he growled, ever the fighter. Lawyers, petitions, the works. But Jordan, sensing the fracture, pulled me aside. "Or we pivot. Community college here, then transfer. I can defer UCLA grad school, get a job in Des Moines. We're not defined by their money." His pragmatism clashed with my despair. "It's not just the cash, Jay. It's the proof I was enough. Now, I'm the kid who lost it all for a kiss." He cupped my face, fierce. "You're the kid who chose truth. That's worth more than any Ivy diploma." Climax brewed that weekend, when Evelyn Harlan summoned me to her Des Moines estate. A sprawling tutor on the river bluffs, all leaded glass and inherited oil portraits. Dad insisted on coming. Jordan too, solidarity in triplicate. The drive was silent, tension coiling like a spring. Evelyn received us in a library that smelled of leather and regret, cane propped like a scepter. "Alexander," she began, perched on a throne of velvet. "This unfortunate business, we can make it go away." My hackles rose. "For a price, I'm guessing." She steepled her fingers, diamonds winking. "Discretion. End the association. Resume your path. The foundation forgives, once." Dad bristled beside me. "Lady, that's blackmail dressed as charity." Jordan's hand squeezed mine under the table. A silent "we got this." Evelyn's gaze sharpened on him. "Young man, you don't belong in our world. Go back to wherever, California? And let him be." The room tilted. Betrayal flashed. Not just hers, but the system's, the generational rot that had silenced Elsie, tested Mom. I stood, voice steel. "No, we're done hiding. Sue us, blacklist me, I don't care. But you'll have to explain to your board why traditional values means crushing kids for loving wrong." Dad rose too, arm around my shoulders. "And you'll explain to God why you meddled in grace." We walked out into the biting wind, Evelyn's protests fading behind us. In the car, catharsis hit. Laughter, ragged and real, bubbling up as snow whipped the windshield. "That was epic," Jordan hooped, punching my arm. Dad chuckled, deep and rumbling. "Like your mom. Fierce as hell. But unraveling isn't tidy." Back home, the real storm hit, not Harlan's but internal. Jordan's phone buzzed incessantly that night. Texts from friends, then his ex from UCLA. A photo attached. Him and Jordan at a pride rally 2 years back. Arms slung casual, lips close. Remember us? The caption read. Jealousy spiked, irrational but sharp. Had Jordan hidden more than I knew? Or was this revenge, time to fracture us when we needed strength? I confronted him in the guest room, voice low to spare Dad. Who's US? The phone screen glowed accusatory. Jordan's face fell, then hardened. That? Ancient history. We broke up before you, before us. But doubt festered, fed by years of my own secrecy. You never mentioned, just like I hid you, tit for tat. His eyes flashed hurt. This isn't about secrets, Alex. It's about trust. You think I timed this? Some cosmic fuck you? The argument escalated, whispers turning to shouts, until Dad pounded on the wall. Boys! Enough! We collapsed, spent, Jordan storming to the porch for air. I followed, finding him under the stars, breath fogging. I'm sorry, I choked. Grief's making me monster. He turned, pulling me close. We're both unraveling, but together. The kiss was salt-tinged, forgiveness in every press. Betrayal's sting faded, replaced by resolve. We'd rebuild, brick by honest brick. Spring thawed the fields, and with it, new paths. I enrolled at Drake University, local but solid, pre-med track intact with Mom's check bridging the gap. Dad joined a grief group at church, PFLAG surprisingly, finding community in unexpected corners. Jordan deferred, landing a policy gig at the state capitol, commuting from our rented bungalow on the river's edge. Harlan's revocation sparked a media ripple. A local reporter picked up the story, framing it as scholarship shocker. Gay student booted for love. Petitions circulated, donors defected, and by summer, Evelyn's empire cracked. A quiet settlement restoring my funds. No strings. But money wasn't the win. The real victory was the wedding, not mine, but Dad's surprise announcement that fall. He'd reconnected with Widow Peterson from the plant, her laugh an echo of Mom's. At the courthouse ceremony, Jordan and I stood as witnesses, rings exchanged under fluorescent hum. To second chances, Dad toasted afterward, raising a plastic cup of punch. Jordan leaned into me, whispering, "Our turn next." The question lingered as we drove back to Dartmouth for my final semester. Jordan shotgun, hand on my thigh, Dad waving from the porch. Unraveled. Yes, but rewoven stronger. Threads of love and loss intertwined. Mom's letter, tucked in my wallet, served as compass. Live true. And in the rear view, the heartland rolled by, no longer a cage but a canvas, vast, forgiving, ours.